Welcome back to FluteTube, where I need to tell you that the first order of business today is I think I'm going to change my channel name. I want to become the Lamborghini flutist, go out and buy a Lamborghini and drive it all over the place and play my flute at people and get their reactions and post them on YouTube. What do you think? Should I do it? Thanks for the amazing suggestion, Tom. Getting to today's actual business here on FluteTube, we're going to talk about ways that you can hack college expenses, ways that you can bring the cost of attending college down either for yourself or a child or perhaps a student. And the first thing that we can discuss, I think basically every student knows already, which is you don't want to mess up your SAT scores or your grades. For a fair number of colleges and universities, if you just have X grades and Y SAT score, you're above a certain GPA and a certain SAT score. First off, you'll be admitted, but if those numbers go up higher, then you get a merit scholarship. You want to keep your options open for merit scholarship by being sure that your grades and your SAT scores are great. Don't be shy about taking the SAT again and again and again. I had one artist friend who hated the math portion, and she just kept taking it until she got a high enough score. But for music students, additionally, what matters more than grades and SAT is your audition. It's like athletes, that you can get a really great talent scholarship at a lot of schools if they value your musical performance enough. In fact, at my university, not only can I award merit scholarship to the flute majors that I want to admit, but if I want somebody and they're a little borderline with the university, if they're a student who the university may or may not admit and they've applied to the music school, the admissions office will contact me and ask me about these students. They'll say, are you willing to give them some merit scholarship? And if I say yes, that can get a student admitted to the university who otherwise might not be admitted. The next thing that you really want to nail and not take your time getting around to it, really do it promptly, is the FAFSA form. That is the free application for federal student aid form. This is what you submit not only to see what you can get from the government. Some people don't fill out the FAFSA because they think, well, we won't be eligible for government grants, we make too much money. But it also makes you and your parents eligible for student loans, which are a much better deal than many other loans you can get. And I heard Dave Ramsey say that the FAFSA is only for a bunch of loan offers and government grants, but that's not true. A lot of colleges use your FAFSA to determine your need and decide how much need-based scholarship they will award you. Fill out the FAFSA. You don't want to neglect to do that and miss out on some money opportunities. A couple more things I'll say about student loans. I do definitely encourage students to avoid them to the extent that they can. But if you're a musician and you desperately need a new musical instrument and you cannot pay for it out of pocket, there have been times that I have carefully recommended to students that they use a student loan to help them to get a new instrument. If you're thinking about putting the cost of a new instrument on a credit card or a personal loan, student loans are a much better deal. And while you're majoring in music at a college or a university or conservatory, it is a legitimate, necessary college expense, and you can use a student loan for it and get a much better interest rate. Some other quick things you should know about the FAFSA. Be sure you fill it out promptly. There is a huge window of time to fill it out for each academic year. For the 2021 to 2022 school year, the open date for the FAFSA when you can first start filling it in and handing it in is October 1st, 2020. And the due date is June 30th, 2022. You can see that window is huge, but the thing is, federal money runs out. If you can get it in right after that open date, you have a lot better chance to get federal money. Other things to know about the FAFSA, you can appeal it. If there are extenuating circumstances that you don't feel were addressed on the form, you can write an appeal and likely get some more money. You can also just do a regular appeal. There don't have to be extenuating circumstances. And again, the sooner you do all of these things, the better your chances of getting more money. Also, be sure you really understand what assets to list on the FAFSA. You do not have to list any retirement money that's in retirement accounts, and you don't have to list the equity that you have in your home. Some people actually use this to kind of hack the FAFSA and they'll stuff money into their retirement accounts or prepay their mortgage so that those funds cannot be considered as available to pay for college. Be honest, but pay really good attention to what you're putting on this form and get it in as quickly as you can. Another tip for saving money in college that may be a bit obvious, but we don't want to overlook it, is that you can work during high school and earn money and save it towards college. One more little FAFSA hack that I will mention is that if you're saving money from a job specifically for college, consider having your parents put that money away in an account. You'll be less likely to spend it, but also if they put their name on that account, when your FAFSA is evaluated to determine your expected family contribution to your college expenses, they will look at that as assets that your parents own. And if you're a student going to college and you have assets, they'll expect you to donate a bigger portion of your assets to your college expenses. But if those assets belong to your parents, they'll ask for a smaller percentage. So it's another little FAFSA hack to consider. Another important strategy to cut down on college costs is to see how many college credits you can get out of the way before you actually officially head off to college. You can do this through AP class credits. You can do it through dual enrollment, being both in high school and college at the same time. You can also take CLEP tests. People don't talk about CLEP tests as much, but it's the college level examination program. It's run by the College Board, the same people that run the AP tests. And if you get a high enough score on CLEP tests, you can just test straight out of college classes and get college credits. The only thing is you do have to look at the college or university where you're going to attend and make sure that they do accept CLEP credits. Think of this strategy as increasing the overlap time that you have between college and high school. You can do both at the same time, and the more you can increase your overlap, the less you'll have to pay on college because you will already have those credits. By the way, I will include some links to these resources that I'm mentioning, like information about CLEP tests, in the video description. So if you are thankful, please like this video. It really helps my videos when you do. And please subscribe if you haven't already. Also, music students, every music school or conservatory you attend will have you take music placement tests when you get there. They all know that music students have drastically different exposure to theory instruction and music history, aural skills, keyboard skills. Every music performance major has to have keyboard skills. You can either take keyboard classes or you can play the piano in front of some instructors and test out of having to take keyboard skills classes. I mentioned in my video last week, this was a big strategy I used. I tested out of every course that I could. Another really important and effective strategy these days, especially when information is so available on Google, is to search for scholarships outside of the specific school that you will be attending. Of course, wherever you do attend, they will evaluate you both for need and merit-based scholarships, but there are thousands of scholarships out there, just out there in the community, not associated with a particular college or university or music school that you can apply for. I've heard stories of students approaching this by applying for one scholarship every single day, or instead of taking a summer job, they set aside the hours they would spend in a job to simply look for and apply to scholarships. In the long run, that can end up earning you a lot more money than going and finding a summer job. Don't tell yourself that you'll apply to an extra scholarship source here or there. Tell yourself that you will mass apply. So many of them ask for the same kinds of information. They might ask for essays describing what you'll do with the money, or what your life goals are, or why you deserve this award. If you think of setting up scholarship templates where you can use the same basic essay more than once, but just modify it to fit more exactly the specific scholarship you're applying for, you can really get a lot of these done. Reuse cover letters. Of course, tailor them for each new scholarship that you're applying for, but your needs for one scholarship to the next are not likely to change very much for your cover letter. I came up with 5 main sources that I would recommend to look for scholarships you can apply for. The first is really look for any local scholarships that you can, whether they're state, town, city, local clubs, maybe a Kiwanis club, maybe a music club. These are the scholarships that you are most likely to be given. They might be slightly smaller amounts, but a lot of people are going to go for the big scholarships that award thousands of dollars. If you have a local Kiwanis club that's offering a $500 scholarship, they're going to give it to someone in the community, and they may not have very many applicants. There is an app that you can get on your phone called Scholly. I'll put that in the video description. That includes a lot of information for scholarships, and there's a website called scholarships.com. If you use these resources, get on there and see which scholarships really can apply to you. You'll have a lot of options open up where you can apply, and the more you apply for, the better your chances of finding money. And then another way to turn up scholarships you can apply for is simply to Google. Google by your nationality, Google by your interests, by your location. Certainly if you're a musician, Google by your instrument and by the fact that you're looking for music scholarship. Google life circumstances if you think you might have a circumstance in your life that would get people to want to help you go to college. An important resource for musicians is to network within your music community. For instance, if you come to me and you're a flutist in Utah, I can tell you that the Utah Flute Association has a great annual scholarship. It's designated for high school seniors. This year we awarded first, second, third place, and 2 honorable mentions. First place got $1,000, second place got $750, 5 awards, and guess how many came to compete for those awards? 5 students. Everybody got money. Also think about niche scholarships and what you might apply for there. I heard about a student who became a golf caddy because that offered great scholarship and almost nobody even knew about it. You could look at military scholarships. That comes with its own set of responsibilities. For graduate school, absolutely look around for graduate fellowships. You might be able to teach some music history, music theory classes to freshmen. You might be able to be the graduate flute assistant and help out the flute professor. At my university, the graduate students teach non-major flute lessons, and they teach the non-major flute choir. Those not only pay much better than work-study jobs, but they're also a wonderful experience to put on your resume. A fair number of graduate programs use graduate fellowships as a recruiting measure. For instance, some music schools have graduate string quartets or graduate woodwind quintet fellowships so that they know they'll get good graduate players in there to fill those positions. They often pay quite well. Then you just want to look at your return on investment. Is this a school that you want to go to and perhaps be paid to play in this quintet? Or is it a situation where you'd rather pay a little bit more money but go to a school that has a bigger name? Also remember, again, this is something I did. A degree from a 4-year school does not mean that you had to be there for 4 years. You could go to one school and then transfer in the middle. Be flexible and creative about how long you stay at schools and why. Constantly evaluate where you want to be. Definitely take a look at state schools, city schools. You can often save a lot of money by choosing a public school rather than a private school or conservatory. I did that with University of Cincinnati College Conservatory of Music. They admitted me with the stipulation that they would look at me as an in-state student, and then they gave me a lot of scholarship. That really sped me along my way with school, and it also saved me tens of thousands of dollars to get through school quickly, paying very little while I was there. Here's another, perhaps this is obvious, but really evaluate your working situation while you're in college. Don't tell yourself, I have to study, I have no time to work. Working a bit can often make you more organized. You can start out with work-study jobs, but as a musician, be sure you move out into the community, start finding students and gigs as quickly as you can because that's much better money. Also look for the best work opportunities on campus. A really good one is a resident assistant, an RA in the dorms. Often they'll give you free room and board and then a small stipend, like perhaps $1,000. That's a great way to cut way back on your living expenses. I also know students who have found security type positions. If you can be sitting and doing homework and then just as you're needed, do something else, that's a great way to go. There's one more school option I want to bring up for the more adventurous. In financial circles, you will hear about an idea to save money that's called Geoarbitrage. Geoarbitrage means going outside of your own country to get a better deal on something. That's often used by people who are trying to save money on living expenses. You can move someplace where the cost of living is much less than in your country, especially if you live in the United States. You might save thousands of dollars a year on rent and living expenses, or perhaps you might simply cross the border out of the United States into Mexico or Canada for a much cheaper medical option. In schools as well, you can consider geo-arbitrage. There are schools in Europe or Canada or Asia that have much cheaper tuition than schools in the United States, and some of them are really excellent schools. One I would personally suggest is the École Normale de Musique in Paris. Tuition there is much more reasonable than major schools in the United States. The one thing musicians have to consider is that the degrees are different. So if you get a degree from a foreign school, it's not going to be equivalent to getting a degree in the United States. It may be a touch complicated to go to the Royal Academy of Music in London as an undergraduate and then come back and do a graduate degree in the United States. But on the other hand, it gives you a certain flair on your resume to be able to say that you went off and studied in London or Paris or at McGill University in Canada. Hopefully this gives you some good ideas or prompts of things to think about, whether you're looking at your undergraduate degree or moving on into graduate school. If you have some brilliant ideas that I haven't mentioned, please list them in the comments, and we'll see you next time on The Lamborghini Flutist. Happy money hunting!